I just feel like the vision that my wife and I had for our life has been completely lost. Like, I just want to know how we can start over, because it seems like every time we start over, it gets derailed. And how can we get out of like the downward cycle of just seems like we're waiting for the next thing to happen when we start our lives over again?
Usually this happens when people have that kind of exciting, the first few times especially, it's kind of exciting, like, let's rebuild something new. We get to decide what's happening in our lives, but we have to live in this town, or I have to keep this job, or we will go to Christmas at my parents' house, right? Like, so some of these big pillars, we don't actually swipe the whole thing away. We swipe away chunks of it. And so then we enter into this new world, but like the same pulls bring us right back to where we were. So tell me, what, if you think of feelings like a dashboard in a car, what are you feeling that lets you know, like, what's happening inside you, inside your wife, you all together, that lets you know your this vision you have for your family's off the rails?
Me, mostly short-tempered, angry a lot.
Okay.
Her, she feels with the family that I have on my side, she feels just very disconnected, unseen, unheard, not satisfied with how she's parenting the children. Feels like she's a failure all the time. Feels like she's not doing the right things. And partially, that would be the question. I travel, so I'm gone 10 months out of the year. So that's another.
Okay.
And they travel with me about 75% of the time, maybe more, depending on where I'm at. We have an RV that they stay with us, so homeschooled. So there's a lot of moving parts. She's had a lot of trials in the past. We've moved her dad onto the property. He wound up committing suicide on our property. We've had various. My child, oldest child, was diagnosed with autism. We moved to Colorado to get ABA therapy. Stayed there for 3 years. Moved back. There's just while she was out there house sitting, the child that she was house sitting for got ran over by a truck. It just seems like a lot of tragedy that seems to just reset us, and we have these hopes. But a lot of it is just, me being angry at the internet, and the gaming, and, the things that I can't parent while I'm away. And when I come home, I try to invest in the kids and their gaming. And whenever I want to suggest something, I drag a Willys Jeep out of my grandpa's basement, hey, let's go work on such and such and go take it around in the go-karts, whatever, just to get them away from the computer. I just feel very deflated every time that I make a 8-hour trip home, on the weekend, and I come back to work. I just feel like I just can't figure out how to map our life out to get out of what I consider a bad rut.
Yeah. Man, good for you, dude. Thanks for seeing this with clear eyes. And those 8-hour trips, those can be...
I listen to you for those 8-hour trips.
Oh, God help you, man. God help you. There's a lot of good podcasts out there, brother. You may want to check some out. What do you do for a living, man?
I'm a welder.
Okay. And do you do site work, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. Specialty welding, or are you doing new builds?
Specialty.
Okay. So that's a trap, man, because you make good money, don't you?
Yes, very.
Yeah.
And we're about $30,000 from paying the house off and having all of our bills paid off. And then my goal was to slide back and work, 2 jobs a year instead of, 6.
Yeah.
But, then that cuts out on retirement and investing and insurance hours and things like that. So it feels just like I can't do one or the other.
Here's the trade you're making. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I live a life where I'm dead in my own skin for some future finish line? Or do I step back and truly sweep the deck clean with my wife and say, what kind of life do we want to live? How does we want this home to feel when both of us walk into it? And dude, you have a mortgage with 30 grand left on it. That puts you better than 95% of America.
Right. Yeah, we're paying it off this year. So
there you go. Your wife's life sounds like one, and I hear this more and more and more and more. It's one of those things that you dream of it. I want to travel together. I want to get some land. I want to live on an RV. I'm going to homeschool. And the rigors of that life are exceedingly lonely.
Yeah.
And disorienting and frustrating. And then you get heartbroken that you're frustrated at your own kids. And then you start looking in the mirror and saying, oh, you're a terrible mother because you don't even want to be around your own kids. And you see, and then I'm not worth having friends. And so when I do go home, like, it just starts in a big loop.
Yeah.
And you're alone. And 10 months out of the year, I'm saying this with all due respect, like, you're a good provider for those kids. But you pop back in every random weekend, and you are expecting them to help you feel a certain way about the choice you've made to be gone 10 months out of the year, and they can't carry that. They can't do it. It's impossible. And you drive back with that. That's that hollow feeling you're talking about when you're driving back.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like you thought it was going to feel. Or you're watching your kids become something or become people that you didn't never think they were going to become, but you're not there to, like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's get obnoxiously practical. How much money do you have in retirement?
I can retire at 55, fairly comfortable. So
are you in
as
union?
Far as retire, yeah.
Okay. How old are you now?
47.
And so I guess what I would ask you is, like, you've heard that old saying, like, nothing changes if nothing changes. So I think it's going to come down to you and your wife asking each other, like, what's going to change?
So how would I do that if I would change something? Like, obviously, they travel with me the majority of the time. This year has been, I say majority, they travel with me 100% of the time. I said 75% of that 10 months, but depending on medical bills or medical appointments and such. So how, with my son being, lots of medical bills, and my wife, lots of therapy and consistency needed to be around the house, and lots of medical bills with her also. How do I make a decent living at the same time, feel like I'm providing health care and, all the things without my family having to, do without in this decision that her and I would make? Obviously, her and I would make it together, so we would have to be okay with it.
Yeah. I think I want to ask a few, like, I'm not going to ask you these, but I want you to ask a few what I would call recursive questions. Some of these things feed on themselves. So would her therapy bills and would her post-traumatic stress, which she 100% has, not clinically, but you know what I mean? I'm not going to do a diagnosis on the show, but she's going to have all kinds of struggles with dad and that little kid, all that kind of stuff. How much of that collapses when she's got a home with roots and a group of women she hangs out with and a small little church group and a group of people that she walks around the neighborhood with and a steady counselor?
See, I tried doing that a year, maybe 2 years ago.
But you got to be a part of it too.
No, I did. Like, I quit my job so I could stay home for a year and start a business, and I did. It was a kind of a turnkey business, and we wound up. She didn't enjoy, being around the family. She was stir crazy at the house. She didn't like any of the churches that we tried. We had several churches that we went to. I feel like I've tried it once, and if I try it again, what's going to be different?
No, fair point. That's a good call out, man. And so again, I'm going to ask that recursive question. You answered it. It's not going to do nothing, dude. In fact, it might make it worse. She likes being on the road. She likes being out and about. My guess is, and without ever talking to her, she's got some profound grief she's got to work through.
Right.
And some of that grief is often carried with parents. And dude, I've been working with young people with autism for my whole career.
Mm.
The shame and guilt parents carry, this quote unquote, I gave this to them.
Sure, yeah.
And man, some parents just get buried by that, and some parents really work hard to dig into that because that story is just not true. And you come out on the other side of it. And some of that challenge is, this isn't the picture I had. I wanted 2 healthy boys, and I got a kid with special needs, and it's hard, and it's frustrating, and things go slower. And some of it's just about getting with the right grief therapist to sit there and work through, like, how do we slowly live into reality? This is my life. This is my life. And that's so hard. But she has to want to do that kind of healing.
Yeah. I think she does. And, this is the first time that she's really sat down and been consistent.
I love that.
With, I'm staying home. I got to take care of this. I got to get better. So she is trying, and I'm just trying to keep up with the funding.
Yeah. So how much do you make a year?
175, 200.
Okay. What you just explained to me, ABA is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive. Especially if it's not covered by insurance, which it often isn't. Trauma and grief therapy would be $225 an hour, depending on where you are. It can be very expensive.
Right.
You have a house that's almost paid off. I guess
that was,
here's what I'm asking.
Sure.
Could you construct a world, not where you go start a business and you end up underwater, and because that might not be your thing. Business owner is very different than incredible world-class welder. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a world where you have collapsed your expenses to basically zero, and you're going to have an ego hit, and you're going to have I really don't have to worry about money very often hit. But dude, I can make $100,000 as a welder in this local community. I'm the best there is. And that pays our bills. We have no mortgage. We're here in this house. We're not going to be rich, but we're going to pay our bills. Is that a feasible thing?
That's what we found out, the year and a half that I had taken off, is that we do no investing. We do no moving forward on finances. We just pay the bills. And it was maddening for both of us.
Okay. So here's the challenge. In some ways, your feelings, like this makes her feel crazy. This makes us both feel crazy. Your feelings have trapped y'all.
Right.
And you're going to have to choose, because here's the deal. You're going to have to, it's the old cliche, but you're going to have to choose your hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choose to drive home every other weekend, 10 months out of the year to see my boys. I talked to one dad, I'll never forget this. I talked to one dad of a kid with autism who's nonverbal. And I just asked him point blank, like, dude, what's it going to be? What's it like to know my son will never be able to say the words, I love you, Dad? It was a really heavy conversation. It was so honoring how he answered. He's like, dude, it's the most heartbreaking thing in the whole world, the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't wish that on him, that he's frozen, that he can't tell his dad, I love you. Right? And so you're going to have to know I'm going to go home with that experience. And I've also increasingly over the last 5 to 10 years heard about how the advancements in video games has entranced a generation of young boys with autism.
Yeah.
Like I cannot not look at that, right? It's captured them. And that's tough. And so I'm going to choose that. I'm going to choose to be frustrated about how we're not investing as much as we would like to. We're only going to have $2 million at retirement instead of 10. Or I'm going to be frustrated about, hey, I feel a little stir crazy in the house. So we're going to have to go camping every other weekend, but we're going to do it as a family. That's going to be okay. Like at some point, you're going to have to choose to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to say, remember the good old days when I made $200,000 and now I only make $100,000? The good old days, right? but like at some point, y'all are going to have to make a choice. Otherwise, make peace with this is just our life. And you're doing what almost every man I know does, including myself, which is when I feel powerless in my own house, I do the one thing I can do to love my family, and I'm going to go work really hard and make some extra money.
Right. Yeah. That's the only thing I know.
That's it.
What I can do.
That's it.
I can count on.
That's it. And so I guess what I'm inviting you into is a period of sitting with your wife and exhaling and saying, I don't know what the next right move is. And that will feel terrifying for Dwayne.
Yeah.
Saying, I make good money at my work and I'm missing out on our boys. I'm missing out on you. or here's our 5 paths we could take. All of them aren't going to feel good. So, okay, we know they're all not going to feel good. Let's move that off to the side. What's the best thing for us? Hope that helped, man. If your wife wants to call in, great. If you both want to call in, I'd love to have you both on. That'd be cool. And maybe we can get through some of it. And hang on the line. I'm going to send you a copy of Building a Non-Anxious Life. And I'm going to also send you a link to the audiobook so you can listen to it on your drive. And there's the 6 daily choices wheel. It's just the wheel for doing life, man. And I wonder if you use that as a roadmap for you and your wife to begin. Let's take all the money off the table. Let's take all the whatever. Let's begin to backfill these 6 daily choices for a non-anxious life. Let's go through these things and begin to map it out. And then if the same job is still on the table, cool. If the same town is on the table, cool. If living on our land is still on the table, cool. But maybe it's not. And we're going to be okay with that because we're going to ask ourselves, how do we want our life to feel? What do we want our life to look like? And then we're going to reverse engineer from there.